African migrants continue to make the perilous journey to Europe, hoping for a better life. Hundreds have lost their lives at sea trying to reach Europe, but this has not deterred many others from risking their lives. Many of those fleeing Africa are from Eritrea, Somalia and Nigeria. Africa 54's Esther Githui-Ewart is in the studio to tell us more. Esther?
That's right, Leno. As the world grapples with the ongoing refugee crisis, a ranking member of the U.S. Congress is raising awareness on the plight of African refugees. Touched by how many Africans continue to lose their lives, U.S. Congresswoman Karen Bass, who is a ranking member of the Africa Subcommittee, organized a discussion to specifically address the African migration problem. And in an exclusive interview with Africa 54, she said the U.S. needs to increase the number of African refugees admitted in the country.
What sparked my concern is that the attention has shifted. A year or so ago, everybody was focused on Africans. There was that one boat accident, a horrific accident, in which 800 migrants died. And since then, the issue has been about Syria, and I think the significance of African refugees has kind of slipped off the agenda.
I asked Congresswoman Karen Bass what she personally thought was the root cause of so many Africans leaving their countries and risking their lives in the high seas.
The situation, for example, of Eritreans leaving is one thing, but when Libya fell, certainly a lot of the sub-Saharan Africans that were in Libya were mistreated. They left for different reasons. So I think it's really important that we not paint it with one brush. We look at people leaving each country in a different manner for those specific root causes. And we certainly know that some people are leaving out of economic desperation.
She says most of the Africans are fleeing persecution, ungovernable situations and instability that exists in several places. But what does the Congresswoman think should be the role of the African Union in addressing the crisis?
I actually think the African Union and the United Nations are addressing the crisis, but it's really important to hear specifically what they are doing. And as the Syrian crisis has reached such extreme proportions with 50% of the country's population displaced, which is incredible, I don't want that to overshadow the specific situations that are facing African countries.
Congresswoman Bass says that even though she has confidence policymakers are taking the crisis seriously, there is a need to examine the role of the United States to say exactly what the U.S. is doing, not just in bringing refugees into the country, but also addressing the root causes of why people are leaving their countries.
I have full confidence that the policymakers are taking it seriously, but what I want to hear out of this policy conference, what are the numbers? Where are the Africans?
The United States this year admitted 25,000 African refugees, but there is a call for the U.S. to increase that number and do more to tackle the refugee crisis. Now, in our next segment on the Africa migration and refugee crisis, panelists express hope that the upcoming meeting between the European Union and the African Union will come up with concrete proposals to stem the crisis. Lenore, back to you.
Thank you so much, Esther. Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com.